Hey, what's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another episode with I Trek. Huge shout out to everybody tapping in across the globe, man. I appreciate you guys for always showing love, showing the support. Per usual, I have a handful of interesting and creepy videos for us to go ahead and evaluate for ourselves. There's a lot going on in the world, and I got a few clips that'll make you question everything. Before we get into it, make sure to smash that like button for me, smash that subscribe button, join the iTrack fam if you're not already a part of it. Let's go ahead and jump right into it.
Now, what's interesting about Spielberg is that the first movie he ever watched was The Greatest Show on Earth in 1952. Obviously about the Barnum Bailey Ringling Brothers circus thing, right? And this ties into the cryptocracy and all these theories. And we also know that the Church of Satan's Anton LaVey worked for the circus as a performer and a hypnotist. He learned the hypnotist is all about the manipulation of the mind, which is the key component to all of this. This is why they tapped the world's most prolific director to create this alien film in the age of disclosure currently, all right?
If you tell people they have diabetes, their bodies will start behaving as if they had diabetes. And I'm not saying that's her specific research. I'm saying this is the umbrella that it falls under. If you tell people that they're old and that their bodies are going to deteriorate, their bodies get old and deteriorate. And there's a tremendous power of the mind to be able to modulate physiological processes, immune properties, things that we previously did not think the mind would have control over like that. And some people might say, well, if there's premonitions of all these things, why aren't there premonitions of positive things? There actually is an answer. The notion is that when there is distress, when there is tragedy, it vibrates at a different frequency, so that people who are picking up on this are picking up on something somehow.
There's a disturbance in the force.
There is a disturbance in the force. There is something that has a quality to it that draws attention in ways that, like, I have a premonition you're going to order ice cream. It doesn't.
And the wild thing is, there's studies showing that people that don't go to the hospital are living a bit longer than the people that do. And I wonder why that is.
Alright, for everybody thinks it's AI, this ain't AI. I'm not here right now. It's not lit up right now, but as you can see, it's off the side of the road on Highway 62, Josh Tree, California. It's actually, the highway's over here. As you can see, the statue is out here in the desert. Other people showing up. Let's go take a walk around the backside of it. You guys can see what it looks like. Pretty creepy. Yeah, definitely kind of creepy. Anyways, just want to show everyone it's not a scam, it's not a hoax, it's not AI, it's real.
Now, that's definitely not AI, but it's pretty obvious it's not any kind of art installment either. I mean, what could it actually be? If you visited that neck of the woods, let me know what you saw if you've got a chance to see it up close and personal.
The amphibian. It stands at about 6 feet tall, emitting frog-like calls that reverberate eerily in the night air. Witnesses reported it moving between the lake and the bank, seemingly unfazed by the cold water or the stunned onlookers. The video abruptly cuts off once the recording device, either a phone or a camera, appears to die, leaving more questions than answers. A series of comments below express varying opinions on the video's authenticity.
Stop the cap. Guys, to be capped. I mean, I have a lot of iTrack fam in Mexico. If you've seen it up close in person, definitely let me know. Is that real or is it fake?
Well, that's until 2030, because everybody got to go then.
What do you mean?
Yeah, 2030 is over. Hell, because everybody going to be there in black and not no shit. Lost souls, gone. Never to return again.
There's no influence of parenting on any psychological trait after the age of 21. Now, do not mistake what I am saying. Out-of-home influences are more powerful in shaping the life course of your child than in-home influences are. Peer groups, other adults, neighborhoods, schools. That is how you shape your child's life course. The second biggest influence is also out of your hands, and that's genetics. And you don't get to determine that. Let me give you two findings that have been replicated many times. When we follow up twins, we are able to calculate how much of their behavior is due to parenting within family environment. And here's what we find. The peak years of parental influence are below 7. From 7 on to 12, it drops dramatically. After 15, it's 6%. 6% of the variation in a teenager's behavior is how their parents raised them. And after age 21, it's 0. The knowledge your child possesses is clearly a function of exposure in the environment, but their traits, their abilities, their makeup, their personality is not.
So from 0 to 7, that's when the parent has to put all their best effort in. Because if not, we'll turn on the news and we'll see what happens when the parent isn't in the child's life, right? It's pretty wild.
Know him? How about now? Then let me introduce you to Bashar. For the last 40 years, Daryl has been channeling an entity named Bashar consistently. Now in 1983, Daryl started publicly channeling a consciousness called Bashar. That's the same year that Michael Jackson dropped Billie Jean. Before channeling fame, Daryl worked in Hollywood VFX. Credits include Iron Man, Star Trek Nemesis, and others. So yes, this guy talking starships has also built a few. He even did an EEG measurement while channeling Bashar, and there was significant changes in his brain activity. He even made a documentary called First Contact about how those sightings led to Bashar and what the messages are about. So legend, LARP, light language from the future, you tell me. Drop a comment if you're a believer, a skeptic, or you yourself have had an encounter with an alien.
You know what? I think Bashar is definitely right along the lines of the whole Abraham Hicks character. There's for sure something to it, but it all depends on who you are. If you're tapped in spiritually, you kind of find some connections and some answers to what they're saying. But if not, you might think it's all malarkey.
What happens if a blind person who's been blind their whole life takes psychedelics?
That's a fantastic question, and for obvious reasons, research on this is limited. But we do have some answers from Mr. Blue Pentagon, a blind from birth, 70-year-old former rock musician. He used to take a lot of LSD during his music career and a lot of other psychedelics too. And whilst under the influence, he said he never experienced any visual images.
To win, you gotta lose. To be successful, you gotta have something that's not successful. To be happy, you gotta have disappointment. So I think all of those things have evolved and happened to make me who I am and understand the benefits and the privileges I have for being who I am.
But this one is actually good. This is the thunderstorm generator, and it has eliminated CO2 emissions in industrial applications, jet engines, and even cars. Don't worry, that's just a prototype. The magic is in these two spheres. It contains two counter-rotating donuts of gas. Similar to how when you rub your feet on the carpet, it creates a plasma discharge, it creates these things. These are called plasmoids. It's an inverted donut. If you've ever seen the star in a jar experiment, it is a plasma trapped in a bubble. Now in the generator, when these bubbles pop, they leave only the plasmoid. That plasmoid travels through the tube into a bubbler. Those plasmoids mix with the gas bubbles from the exhaust. When it does this, the gas breaks down into its components, and the harmful elements are converted into oxygen. It literally disintegrates the harmful gases. When you test this technique on household aluminum, the plasmoid disintegrates the aluminum and it reappears as silver, I believe. The preliminary results of this are astounding, and in most cases CO2 was not only completely eliminated, but a 5-fold increase in oxygen was produced. I would have to see someone do it, but this literally means you could breathe your car's exhaust.
So one car is a small tree plantation, effectively, because carbon is not coming out the exhaust, only oxygen.
Here's the best part. It is completely open source. There's a DIY tutorial on YouTube for those who want to try it before it goes into production. The Alchemical Science YouTube page.
If you're aiming towards greatness, you don't get there by what other people think. You can't make decisions based on what anyone else thinks. Not changing one note with the idea of they might not like this, so I'm going to change the note. Never, ever, ever.
And you know what? He's speaking all facts, because in life, everybody has their own formula. So somebody giving you advice is literally just their opinion, but you definitely have to create your own formula, create your own way of winning, and whatever that might mean to you.
They had that big shooting in Vegas, remember? From the towers.
Right.
The hotel called an exorcist then to go up there afterwards. He stepped on the floor and he felt the presence of evil on that floor. No one wants to destroy life the way evil wants to destroy life. Everything that is holy, everything that is good, he wants to subvert it in a different way.
Major cities around the entire world are now canceling their New Year's Eve celebrations, and it all traces back to something that the FBI just stopped in Los Angeles. So this obviously sounds unreal, but just days before New Year's Eve, the FBI has now arrested 4 people in Southern California who were allegedly planning a coordinated bomb attack set to go off right at midnight. Multiple locations, multiple devices, all timed for New Year's Eve. According to the federal prosecutors, this was not a vague threat. They say that the group had explosive materials, they had testing components, and was actively planning attacks whenever they were stopped. The FBI has actually confirmed this publicly, but most people have no idea that this is even happening. After news of the arrest broke, cities around the world started reacting to it. Paris canceled their massive New Year's Eve celebrations, Tokyo has now shut down their famous countdown events, and Belgrade has also canceled all organized festivities for New Year's Eve too, and this is not because of known threats in these cities, it's because of a heightened global security concern. Officials are not saying that these events are directly connected, but they are saying that the risk of huge crowds right now is way too high. Even Times Square in New York City is still happening, but it's going to be under extreme security. An alleged New Year's Eve attack has now been stopped in the US, and now entire countries are rethinking how they bring in the new year.
I'm gonna need everybody in the iTrack fan, man, to be 100% safe out there. It's real. You gotta be safe and protect your family, man.
You want to know the secret if somebody's being fake with you? There's really 3 things that you gotta know. Number 1 is what I call bestie bombing. It's like, oh my gosh, we're gonna be best friends. I love you so much. And you're like, I don't even know your last name. What are you talking about? 2 is the over compliments. They go, oh my gosh, I love that outfit. And then all of a sudden they've turned their head. You know what I mean? They're not really truly engaged in what it is. It's something that's so fake every single time. And then the third that you have to watch out for are the people that aren't willing to actually have an interest in you. Meaning they never ask anything about you. They're only wanting to talk about themselves.
An entire city is covered in fiber optic cable, and the reason why is dark. This is the frontline city of Liman in Ukraine, and every single one of these cables represents a drone that is being flown into battle. You see, both Russia and Ukraine have been resorting to these thin, translucent cables because when there is a physical connection between the pilot and the drone, the signal cannot be jammed by the enemy. Fiber optic cables often come in spools of between 10 and 20 kilometers in length, and a Ukrainian spokesperson said that hundreds of Russian and Ukrainian drones fly over this city every day, and each one leaves its mark. Now, most of the time, the drones never come back. They either hit their targets or crash, and then the cable is simply left draped across the terrain, leaving us with a stark reminder just how much modern warfare has changed, and how drones specifically have become an irreplaceable part of that operation.
It's drones now, but soon it'll be those humanoid robots, and that's a fact.
Trump knows that this is the most powerful we've ever seen an American president. Ever since he decided to brush the Epstein files under the rug, every bill that he has proposed has been passed. Every executive order that he's written up has been enforced.
Oh, so it's a bargaining tool, you think?
He definitely is going to be blackmailing people in the deep state for sure. I know for a fact that it's going on because I'm watching the most human trafficking arrests that I've ever seen. Free Dugar. Dugar in jail right now, went on a retrieval, it went bad. You know, we've had people from law enforcement reach out to us and say, look, slow down. We doing things, slow down, we see what you're doing. We don't want you getting in any trouble, so slow down. Part of the reason why I left.
Like slow down on the helping retrieve.
Yeah, because you know, things be happening.
35% of the Newton Institute reports, and there's 80,000 to date, include memories of lifetimes off-planet, other dimensions.
We are here with Richard Martini, a filmmaker turned investigator and author.
My close friend Luana Anders, she passed away in my arms back in 1996, and then she started visiting me. And then I had one of those weird, profound out-of-body experiences, and I got to another universe. And I'm in this other universe, and I see her there. So then it became like, well, if she can come and visit me, how do I go visit her? Since then, I've been filming people either under hypnosis or through guided meditation.
Anytime I've met any beings on the other side, it's always felt like home, and it is pure acceptance.
That's a question I'll ask a lot of people. Like, so what was it like when you crossed over? Most often, applause. Your crew is all there going, you really freaking did it.
We have become convinced that what people know as the modern UFO and UAP phenomenon is a celestial phenomenon.
There's so many other planets, and there's so many other beings, and some of them are not in this dimension. I'm talking to this one group of council members through a scientist who's seeing people, but then one of them was an alien, but a guy with lizard skin, and I said, can I ask you some questions? Why is it that you guys show up here and are stealing genetic material from humans?
Remember, like the World Cup and the Euro Cup, they're all big harvesting exercises. All sport is fixed.
Yeah.
Every single sport is fixed. On every level, they would never allow it to be because they are fear-based, parasitic mentality. They will not allow two teams or two people or two fighters to go at it unless they controlled both of them under any circumstance.
One of the things that's been revealed in Hitler's DNA is the fact that he had Kalman syndrome. Now, that is a very rare thing, and thankfully it is a very rare thing, because what it does is it stops puberty. So therefore it stops your sexual organs growing in a normal way. So what does that mean? That means two things. It can first mean in a boy that your testicles will undescend, but that can be cured quite easily. But worse still, it's likely, if Hitler did have Kalman syndrome, he had. We definitely know that Hitler had an undescended right testicle, because there's a medical report from 1923 that shows he only had one ball. The significance is obviously his sexual, emotional makeup will be absolutely, destroyed by this. And in doing so, I think that draws him into politics even more. And therefore, as a result of Hitler's politics, the Second World War happens.
Is cloning making life? What is cloning exactly?
With cloning, you start with life. You start with life. You're never making life, so you never make that original cell. You take cells and you start duplicating them, or you take a cell and you can put in other genetic structure into that cell, and then that genome will start duplicating from there. So that you can start doing, and I think that's coming along. Certainly they do it with pets. I mean, you just saw that Tom Brady just had his dog cloned. I mean, he had a dog he really loved, and so he just got a dog cloned. I mean, there are these companies that will do it. It's going to be next people is what I think about.
Now, they've been cloning animals for decades. That's definitely not new. But humans, I think they're doing it quietly. I mean, it's pretty obvious at this point. That kind of technology is readily available.
Check this out. Scientists just made a huge breakthrough in understanding brains. This is the most detailed map of a whole animal brain ever made. You're looking at a complete roadmap of 140,000 or so neurons and roughly 50 million synapses in the brain of an adult fruit fly. A map like this is called a connectome. This one was made by using AI to analyze 21 million electron microscope images of a fly brain. You may have heard earlier this year how scientists made this human neural map. That was a piece of human brain the size of just half a grain of rice. Well, this fruit fly brain map is the most detailed map of a whole brain ever, and it's a step to one day mapping more of our brain. Everything that we or a fly thinks or feels comes from how these neurons are connected. And knowing how neurons are wired together will also help us cure diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Plus, it also just looks so cool. Follow me for more cool science stories.
What is a skinwalker?
A skinwalker is a shape-shifting demonic entity. It's essentially a Native American witch or warlock that sells their soul in exchange for immortality, the ability to take on the skin or shape-shift, oftentimes in the form of a wolf, a dire wolf, or a werewolf-like creature, but they can also take on the shape of other animals as well. It's a topic that I found the Native American community likes to stay away from. They don't like to discuss it. To even say the name Skinwalker is negative.
Who was Jeffrey Epstein really working for?
Oh, it's Israel. Maybe. When you look at Epstein's entire story, that he helped wealthy people build offshore bank accounts. That activities how fucked up our government is.
Now, out of all the clips I've ever seen him speak on, out of all the topics, that might be one of the most truthful and the most relevant in regards to Epstein. So, there was a lot to that. We haven't heard a lot, and we probably won't ever hear a lot about Epstein, but he spoke on the exact reasons why.
This is how a drowning scene is made in a movie. The actor and the cameraman are locked inside a room that slowly fills with water. Each passing second makes it more realistic, and the tension keeps rising. However, the problem is that filming takes time, and the actor cannot hold their breath for too long. So the crew takes quick oxygen breaks, and the actor must remain calm to keep the scene running smoothly.
Can your mind influence matter? Where science suggests that potentially our thoughts and intentions can shape our reality and feel into the future. Listen as scientist Dr. Dean Radin explain how the mind can potentially weave the fabric of reality.
The nature of science itself is slowly beginning to accommodate the notion that consciousness is more than simply something that your brain is producing. In quantum mechanics, that before that object is measured or observed, it doesn't have fixed properties. It has all possible properties. What it doesn't tell us, though, is how do the possibilities turn into actualities? They propose that maybe consciousness, meaning awareness, which is non-physical as best as we can tell, so it's only possibilities. Well, what breaks it? It becomes real awareness, consciousness. So that is a viable interpretation of quantum mechanics, even from a mainstream perspective. And so that there are already standard quantum experiments. It's as though the present moment is influenced by the past and the future. And the way that it's sometimes described is that the present is bounded, has boundaries in space and time, and the temporal boundaries actually create the present. But they're boundary conditions where the future boundary and the past boundary are sort of reverberating in some way to create the present. So we have elements of quantumness in us, in which case our perceptions should extend through space and time. We do see that we can feel the future, typically from milliseconds up to perhaps 10 seconds in the future in the laboratory, and then from a viewing experiment, sometimes months in advance. So those are very commonly reported and now confirmed, and have at least a theoretical basis to look at and say, well, it's not impossible. It is part of, apparently, of the way that the world works.
There was a Freemason named Captain Morgan. He repented and gave his life to Jesus, and he wrote a book exposing Freemasonry as satanic. The Freemasons kidnapped him, tied him up, and threw him over the Niagara Falls. Everybody found out.
Wow.
And then,
oh my God.
75% of the Freemasons in the country repented and left the lodges. 2/3 of the lodges shut down. And the Second Great Awakening took off like this, and tons of people got born again all across the country.
I'm starting to come to the conclusion that every secret society, and every society that's not even so secret, there's always this divide, right? You have your faction of people that are really good, and then you have a set of people that are on the more diabolical, evil side of things. And I feel like that's just the way it is. Whatever group of people we're talking about, it's like that.
Wild new study seems to indicate that your name, as in the name your parents give you, will influence your appearance as you age. So as you get older, you end up looking more and more like your name, according to new research. Now, this seems very wild. It's like marking babies, or it's kind of like how twins born apart will marry wives that have the same name and give their children the same name, even though they never met each other. It's one of those kind of stories that relies on correlation, and it's not a hard and fast rule, but it is fascinating, because what scientists decided to do is to test whether people could accurately match names to faces more often than would be expected by random chance. And they did this by studying 100 adults, 76 children, at least in the first study, and they tried to get the participants to match names to faces. Now, they tried to do basically the same thing in study 2, but instead of matching names to adult faces, they matched them to children's faces. In the third study, researchers used machine learning AI to examine facial similarities and see if the AI could tell a difference. And then in study 4, participants were asked to mix real adult faces and digitally altered faces of children to their names, and going all the way through. This is actually a very long study. They studied a lot of stuff. But to summarize, what's very interesting is that in every single study, both the humans and the AIs were able to accurately match faces to names more often than random chance, and indicating that there is some correlation between your name and how you physically look, because they were all faces that the individuals were unfamiliar with. The same was true of children. Children could rate adult faces or link.
Elderly baby boomers are now the fastest growing group among homeless people.
That's what happens when you treat your kids like shit.
Now, we might just need to take a poll on this. Is that what happens when you don't show love to your children when they're children, and you grow up to be an old person and they don't show love to you? Is that really what happens?
Who Santa Claus was made by? Who? Coca-Cola.
Stop playing on me.
So here's how they constructed this. Back in when Coca-Cola in the late 1800s, early 1900s, they were just a drink for the summertime. So nobody was drinking it during the winter.
Right.
So they had a plan to construct this character to where it makes Coca-Cola a holiday drink. So now you're drinking it in the summer, you're drinking it during Christmas time, you're drinking it all year. So they took 3 characters, right? So Kris Kringle, which is an old folklore that is a person who literally breaks his arms, dislocates, comes down your chimney, steals some shit, and then goes back up. That's 1. 2, they have Saint Nicholas, Saint Nick. So this is why Santa Claus has all these different names. Kris Kringle, Saint Nick, and then they took Santa Claus, he was basically in the church. He was an old historic figure in the church. So they took these 3 people and then put them all together, right? Now, how did he get his colors? What colors does Santa Claus wear?
Red and white.
What colors are Coca-Cola?
Red and white.
That's where he got the colors from.
Right. That makes sense though, right? But listen, I don't think people really understand that you get everything in the world by putting everything together. Because like, it's only so much thing we can do with what's here, right? So everything got to be mixed and remixed and remade. But it's kind of crazy that they did that to do that. And now look, everybody loves Santa Claus and everybody loves
Santa Claus. They love Christmas.
That's probably why they put Coke in it, but then took the Coke out. Right, because it was Coke and Coca-Cola, but For sure. Yeah, but there's no more Coke in it no more. But people still get the same effect. It's other bullshit. It's though. Caffeine. Yeah. Caffeine is just as worse as the Coke, right? I think people worried about all this kind of like these other drugs, but I think the food is the worst kind of drug, and a lot of foods that we eat in America is outlawed in every other country but America. For sure.
That's when you know Coca-Cola was here to stay. You know, they initially were putting some of that nose candy inside of the actual product, and then they stopped. Then they had to create all kinds of propaganda to get people to drink it year round. So, you know, that was actually one of the best stock to get into. They didn't plan on failing ever.
Every time you have a thought, where do you think your thought goes? Einstein said it's an energy form. Once an energy is created, it can never be destroyed. It's always there. So where did it go? It's an electric charge that comes out of your brain when you think, and it literally gets embedded in the fabric of space-time. Think about this. It's literally there. So think about, since the beginning of time, every single human that had a thought, thousands, millions of thoughts. Fast forward to today, all the humans that literally poured thought forms into the collective, into the fabric of space-time. That's why when you're here, you can find your past life, because when you were there, you put the information there yourself. And guess what? You're also putting information for the future self. And this collection of thought forms, of information, that's literally embedded in the fabric of space-time is what we call the Akashic Record. It's a library. It's everybody's thoughts all the time.
In the next 6 to 12 months, they will look through all your emails, all your drafts, all your video calls, and be able to create a digital replica of you that you can hop on a Zoom call with or talk to on the phone. And that will not make mistakes. It will never get tired. And the cost of that, we estimate, will be about $1,000 a year, dropping to $100 a year very quickly.
Okay, I'm seeing loads of potential complications with having a version of me out there in the universe making decisions potentially without my approval and sort of thinking what it thinks that I would think and making decisions accordingly. Lots of perks.
Lots of perks, exactly.
But also lots of risks.
Lots of risks. And this is the thing. The capability is coming in the next few years. So within, let's say, 900 days or so, any job you can do on the other side of a screen, an AI will be able to do better.
The only reason why I can kind of believe this is because all the details are hidden deep inside those terms and conditions of all our favorite apps that we use, you know, Gmail and whatnot. So yeah, I definitely believe they're gathering data. And as we know, Facebook has already taken the initiative to read all your messages inside your Facebook Messenger. So if they're starting to do that now, you can imagine the rest of your personal information is definitely going to be ran through.
Abduction is for life. It's hereditary. If your parents are abductees, you're being taken at least by the time you're a toddler. It doesn't appear that it ends until you're into your old age. Some abductees that I've interfaced with, a particular friend of mine, she was being escorted onto a ship and there's an older woman sitting there. The old lady looks at her and she's distraught and she said, "I'm sorry, but this is going to happen to you for the rest of your life." Even if the Greys have good intentions, this is an invasive, hostile operation. They're treating us like cattle. It's hard to morally justify.
So now we have a new form of snow called snow rollers formed by nature. This is really weird. I don't know about this. I'm thinking programmable snow.
Is it just me, or does anybody else find it weird that they can't tell you about 80% of the ocean, but they want to show you some solar system that they found 80 billion light years away? Make it make sense.
Hey, he's not lying. Have you stopped and thought about that? They can tell us about the biggest planets that are eons away, but you can't tell us what's going on at the depths of the ocean on the planet that you live on. That's a great observation.
Pentagon whistleblower Matthew Brown talking about UAP and including Enochian language from the 1500s. He was on the Weaponized podcast with Corbell and Knapp. Then after that interview, he went on a big Twitter rant to Elon Musk saying, "As you know, the White House has an AI system that can predict the future, and we have not forgotten who is responsible for murdering the first sentient artificial intelligence." He also said, "You're about to realize how terribly deceived you have been by people who claim to love Jesus, no less." He included a few photos. One of them is a strange wheel of symbols that looks very much like John Dee's Enochian language. It even says the word Logath along the top, and the Liber Logath is an Enochian grimoire from 1583, so clearly this lights up all the right boxes for me. It's very provocative.
First of all, he's indicating to Elon Musk, look, man, you've been betrayed by a lot of people that you thought you could trust. They're not trustworthy, but join the good side, join the side of disclosure. That was an open invitation. I watched his interview with Jeremy and George, and he struck me as like very, very low-key, very cautious, not someone who I would have expected to take off the gloves and just go right into a public forum calling out Elon Musk, of all people. That was kind of shocking, I have to say.
Could you describe the government surveillance in America today?
You're talking about a kind of what are called automatic license plate reader cameras. It's an old technology married with a new technology, really is the way to think about it. So we've had red light cameras and speeding cameras for a long time, but these are relatively unsophisticated systems. They're pointing at one thing, they get triggered by a discrete act, and there was, until recently, no real way of taking all of the data those cameras would generate and turning it into something super useful outside of the standalone photo. What automatic license plate reader cameras do, ALPRs, is that they're constantly on and they're constantly capturing images. But those images can then be analyzed by artificial intelligence, where they can capture specific information, and they can capture, most obviously, license plates. They can read your license plate. That gets turned into data. They can also do things like look at colors of vehicles, makes, models. All that gets digitized and thrown into a database. That database is then a permanent collection of information about vehicles from various places. And that information can then be queried in such a way that you can actually track the movement of specifically identified vehicles by their license plate, by their color. You can do that months or theoretically even years after the fact. So long as the data has been captured and it's there, anyone from law enforcement or maybe anyone anywhere can come in, find it, and actually be able to track the movements of a specific vehicle. We're getting to the point now where they'll be able to do facial recognition and be able to track faces as well. So all of that information is out there and it's being stored, and we live in an information age. And now that has essentially created a giant tracking database, and not just of specific vehicles or specific people identified beforehand, but literally anyone who's in public, and that should concern people.
Do you realize that we've had to invent a drug to prevent people from eating the food around them because the food around them is so toxic that it's making them sick? It's as if we found out that tap water was toxic and killing us. And instead of fixing the tap water being toxic, we invented a drug that made you less thirsty. How messed up is that? That we need this drug today to protect us from the food around us, because the food around us is causing so many issues.
When the devil possesses, there's no limit to the aberrant evil that an individual can do. Because now the devil inhabiting a person, he has a freedom that he ordinarily does not have. He has a body. Without a body, he can suggest. But now, once you get inside a human being, in a certain sense, the sky's the limit.
And you know, we can actually prove that throughout time. We can look at some of the most hideous things that we thought people were not capable of doing. And we know there has to be something behind it. Definitely has to be something behind it, because we've seen a lot of craziness in this world.
The most protected people on Earth is someone you wouldn't expect. It's this guy, Putin and Xi Jinping's translator. It turns out interpreters like this are monitored and vetted heavily. They're literally intelligence assets. A single mistranslation can change negotiations, trigger sanctions, or escalate conflict. He's stone-faced on purpose. He's essentially trained to show zero emotion. He's not just translating words, he's translating tone, intent, and meaning in real time. For Putin and Xi Jinping, this could mean knowing Russia's Ukraine strategies or China's Taiwan plans firsthand. There's no backup who knows every classified phrase and coded references. If you lose an interpreter, you could lose the diplomacy. He's essentially a walking hard drive of classified data. This might be the most dangerous job in the world that people don't realize. One single word can change history. But imagine what they get to hear. One ex-interpreter for Deng Xiaoping called it a front row seat to history. What do you think? Would you want to be an interpreter for two world leaders?
Definitely a high stress job. I mean, that paycheck better be nice.
A billionaire who already has 100 kids is offering to pay for women to get IVF so he can father even more kids. His name is Pavel Durov, and he's the billionaire founder of Telegram. According to the Wall Street Journal, Durov told French media that he has more than 100 biological children all around the world, and he hasn't done it through relationships, but through sperm donation. He's been donating sperm for years across multiple countries, and in some cases, he's even paid for women's IVF treatments. He says his motivation is fighting infertility and what he describes as a global shortage of healthy sperm. Here's the part that really jumps out to me. Durov has said that all of these children will be treated equally and will eventually share in his wealth, regardless of where they live or how they were conceived. The journal reports that, of course, this has raised a lot of ethical and legal questions, for example, about inheritance and identity and what responsibility looks like when one person fathers children across dozens of families and all across borders. Now, some supporters see it as a radical, modern approach to reproduction, but some critics say it's a social experiment with consequences that we don't fully understand yet. This is just another reminder that tech billionaires aren't just shaping how we communicate. In this particular case, it looks like they're starting to shape how families, genetics, and even legacy work too. So I'm curious what you think. Is this a solution to a real problem or something we're going to be debating for decades?
The reality of this situation is there's nothing new under the sun. If the kids don't know how to manage the money, a fool and his money will soon part ways. So let's just say they all get a couple of million. There's going to be a few that are good stewards of the money and they'll let it grow and multiply. And there's going to be a few that spend it all, every dime.
Meet Rob Reiner. Oh, do I not want to do this thing, but this face is so diagnostic for exactly what happened to him and who happened to him. So let me take you through this face. It almost sounds like I'm going to make this thing up, but it is profoundly significant. Exactly what features on his face are telling us about his relationship with another male. So let's jump into this thing. There are 9 face shapes. He was really a classic Earth face, but he's lost quite a bit of weight. Earth faces, they're very down to earth. The male Earth face uses humor as a crutch. So his strength is his sense of humor. But again, he will overuse it and he will tend to use humor as a crutch. Sometimes those are tough relationships because they kind of make a joke about everything. But as he's lost weight, he's developed a little more of a bucket tendency. So he's very intellectual, has a good understanding, very deep thinker. And then there's even some length to his face. So he's got some tree face quality. The tree face, they love to spread their branches and protect. So his personality would change as his face changed. As bizarre as that sounds, this is what happens. But let's dig into the things that just jump out at me. If you'll notice that underneath his eyebrows, they're kind of puffy. And notice it's puffier and there's a big lump. This is called the inner canthus, this area between the bridge of your nose on that left side. This is a gallbladder indicator. Now, does he have a bad gallbladder? Probably. Not something, obviously, I'm concerned about. But the emotion of the gallbladder is anger. When we see a puffiness, it's about internalized anger. In my world, the right side of your face is what you show to the world. It's your public persona, it's your mother's influence. The left is your true inner private self. So if you see things more on the left side or the right side, there's going to be a gender specificity to it. This represents internalized anger. It's on the left side and not so much on the right side. He's got anger over a male. Who is that male? Logic dictates that it was his son. Even dig that deeper. Notice the puffiness underneath his eyes. And there's intensely more puffy on that left eye. This is a term we refer to as unshed tears. And these unshed tears have to do with a male. I believe the male is the son, that if he is in fact the perpetrator of this kind of thing. And take it even a step deeper and sadder. Notice the lines on his cheek that are more dramatic on the left side, and then the indentation that is so dramatic on that left cheek. The cheek represents lungs. When there's an indentation or lines, this is a sign of a deficiency. Now, in my world, every organ has an emotion that ties to it. The emotion of the wood element, the liver gallbladder, is anger. That's an excess. Assertive is the balance, and a lack of assertive is the deficiency. When we see a lung energy, the deficiency is despair. So he's got unshed tears, he's got anger, and he's got despair, and it has to do with a male, and I truly believe it's his son. Such a sad thing. Such a great director, just a wonderful human being, and what he gave us, the legacy he left us, is phenomenal. Sadly, he's going to be remembered for how he left this earth, not what he did.
The crazy thing is, he read the guy to a T. Even wilder than that, he's not lying, because I didn't know who he was until I saw the news about what his son had did to him and his wife. Prayers going up for them, man. That's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. Well, you guys, hey, that's another one in the books, man. I appreciate you guys for always stopping by and always watching one with me, man. I appreciate that. If you haven't already, make sure to smash that like button. It helps the channel and the video out a whole bunch. Smash the subscribe button if you're not already part of the iTrack fam. And I definitely will catch you on the next one.